He was just 17, standing in a courtroom, heart pounding, palms sweaty. Why? Because a judge, towering behind the bench, had just barked an order that sent chills through the room. Guards, force him to his knees. The crowd gasped as the black teen, innocent and terrified, was shoved down before everyone. Why would a judge do this? What had this kid done to deserve such humiliation? And what happened next would leave the entire court speechless, exposing a truth that no one saw coming. He stood there, Jamal, a lanky 17-year-old with a faded hoodie and a nervous glance. The courtroom smelled of old wood and tension, packed with onlookers whispering behind him. It was supposed to be a routine hearing in a small Ohio town, 2024, a place where justice was meant to be served. But for Jamal, it felt like walking into a lion's den. He wasn't a defendant, not even a witness, just a kid on a school field trip with his classmates, there to learn about the legal system. His teacher had called it a civic duty, to watch a real trial unfold. But nothing about this day felt like a lesson in justice. Jamal's life hadn't been easy. Growing up in a neighborhood where sirens were a lullaby, he'd learned to keep his head down. His mom worked double shifts at a diner, and his older brother was locked up for a crime he swore he didn't commit. Jamal wasn't perfect. He'd skipped school a few times, got into a couple of fights. But he was trying. He wanted to be a mechanic, fix cars, build something stable. That's why he joined the field trip, thinking maybe he'd see something inspiring, something to make him believe in the system that had already failed his family. The judge, Honorable Raymond Holt, was a local legend, known for his iron fist and tough-on-crime stance. He'd been on the bench for 20 years. To some, he was a hero who cleaned up the streets. To others, a tyrant who saw guilt in every face that didn't look like his. The courtroom was his kingdom, and today it was buzzing with a high-profile case, a robbery trial that had the town divided. Jamal's group sat in the back, scribbling notes, trying to keep up with the legal jargon. But Jamal, exhausted from helping his mom late the night before, felt his eyelids droop. The room was warm, the judge's voice a dull hum. His head nodded once, twice. She, the judge's clerk, noticed first. A sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, she whispered to a bailiff, pointing at Jamal. The bailiff, a burly man with a permanent scowl, marched over. "Hey, kid, wake up," he hissed. Jamal jolted upright, heart racing, mumbling an apology. His classmates snickered, but the judge's gavel slammed down, silencing the room. "You, in the back." Holt's voice boomed, his eyes locking onto Jamal. "You think my courtroom is a place to nap?" The air grew heavy. Jamal stammered, "No, sir, I'm sorry, I didn't mean," but Holt cut him off. "Disrespecting this court is disrespecting justice itself. Guards, bring him forward." They moved fast, two bailiffs gripping Jamal's arms, pulling him from his seat. His classmates froze, their teacher's face pale. The crowd murmured as Jamal was dragged to the front, his sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. He wasn't a criminal, wasn't even supposed to be here like this, but now he was the center of attention. "On your knees," Holt ordered, his voice cold as steel. The bailiffs pushed down hard, forcing Jamal to the floor. His knees hit the wood with a thud, pain shooting through his legs. The courtroom fell silent, every eye on him, some shocked, some curious, some cruelly satisfied. Why was this happening? Jamal's mind raced. He'd seen videos online, heard stories. Black kids like him targeted, humiliated, treated like less. But in a courtroom, in front of everyone, this wasn't supposed to happen here. The judge leaned forward, his face a mask of authority. "You need to learn respect, boy," he said, the word boy, cutting like a blade. Jamal's cheeks burned, not just from shame but from a spark of anger. He wanted to scream that he wasn't a criminal, that he was just tired, that he was human, but he bit his tongue knowing speaking out could make it worse. She, Jamal's teacher, Ms. Carter, couldn't stay silent anymore. A black woman in her 30s, she'd seen too many kids like Jamal caught in systems that didn't care. She stood, her voice trembling but firm. "Your Honor, he's a student, not a defendant. This is a field trip. Please, he didn't mean any harm." The judge's eyes narrowed, his lips curling into a sneer. "Sit down, ma'am, or you'll be removed." The threat hung heavy, but MS Carter didn't back down. "He's a child," she pressed. "You can't do this." The crowd stirred, some nodding, others whispering disapproval. Holt slammed his gavel again. "Order, one more word and you're in contempt." Jamal, still on his knees, felt the weight of the room. His classmates were wide-eyed, some filming on their phones, others too scared to move. He wanted to disappear, to run, but the bailiff's hands were firm on his shoulders. Then he heard a voice from the crowd. A woman, older, her tone sharp. "This is wrong. Let that boy up." It was Mrs. Elaine Thompson, a local activist who'd been fighting for justice since the 90s. She'd come to watch the robbery trial, but now stood, her presence commanding. "You're abusing your power, Judge Holt," she said. The room erupted in murmurs, tension crackling like static. Holt's face reddened. "You're out of line," he snapped. "Guards, remove her." But as the bailiffs moved toward Elaine, another voice joined. A man, a lawyer in a crisp suit, who'd been observing quietly. "Your Honor, this is a violation of due process. This young man isn't charged with anything. You're overstepping." The lawyer, David Ruiz, was known for taking on civil rights cases. His calm, authoritative tone shifted the room's energy. Suddenly, it wasn't just Jamal versus the judge. It was a growing chorus against Holt's actions. The judge, unaccustomed to defiance, doubled down. "This is my courtroom," he roared. "I decide what's justice here." But the crowd wasn't having it. More voices rose. Students, parents, even a few reporters who'd been covering the trial. "Let him up," someone shouted. "This ain't right," another added. Jamal's heart pounded, not just from fear now, but from a flicker of hope. He wasn't alone. The people in the room, were starting to push back. Holt, sensing the shift, leaned back, his eyes scanning the crowd. He wasn't used to losing control. "Fine," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "Stand him up." The bailiffs pulled Jamal to his feet, his legs shaky but his head high. He met the judge's gaze, refusing to look away. Holt smirked. "You think this is over, kid? You'll learn respect one way or another." The threat lingered, but Jamal felt something new. Anger, yes, but also strength. He wasn't just a kid anymore, he was a symbol of something bigger. MS Carter approached Jamal, whispering, "You're okay, we've got you." Elaine Thompson joined them, her eyes fierce. "This isn't the end," she said, loud enough for the judge to hear. "We're filing a complaint. This court's a disgrace." David Ruiz nodded, already pulling out his phone to contact his firm. The crowd's energy was electric now, a mix of outrage and defiance. Reporters scribbled furiously, knowing this was no longer just a robbery trial. It was a story of power, race, and resistance. But Holt wasn't done. He turned to the bailiffs. "Clear the gallery. This court's adjourned for the day." The crowd protested, but the guards began ushering people out. Jamal, MS Carter, and Elaine were escorted to the hallway, where reporters swarmed. "What happened in there?" one asked. "Is this about race?" another pressed. Elaine didn't hesitate. "This is about a judge who thinks he's God. That boy was humiliated for being black and tired. We're not letting this go." As the crowd dispersed, Jamal's phone buzzed. A classmate had posted the video online, and it was already spreading. Hashtags like #Justice for Jamal and #Holt must go were trending. The story was bigger than the courtroom now. It was a spark igniting conversations about justice, power, and who gets to wield it. But Jamal wasn't thinking about virality. He was thinking about his mom, who'd be heartbroken to hear this, and he was thinking about his brother, still behind bars, caught in the same system that had just tried to break him. They didn't know it yet, but Jamal's story was about to unravel a deeper truth. Elaine Thompson wasted no time. That evening, she organized a meeting at a local community center, pulling in activists, lawyers, and even a few sympathetic cops. David Ruiz brought evidence. Judge Holt had a history. Complaints about racial bias, excessive punishments, and intimidating defendants had piled up for years, but the small town's power structure protected him. "He's untouchable," David said, "but not anymore. That video's our leverage." Jamal, still shaken, spoke at the meeting. His voice cracked at first, but grew stronger. "I wasn't doing anything wrong," he said. "I was just tired." He looked at me like I was nothing. The room fell silent, then erupted in support. MS Carter shared her own story of a cousin railroaded by the system, of her own fear every time she saw a cop car. "This isn't just about Jamal," she said. "It's about all of us." The next day, the story hit local news, then national. CNN ran a segment, "Judge Humiliates Black Teen in Courtroom Power Trip." X was ablaze with reactions, from outrage to calls for Holt's removal. But there was pushback too. Some defended Holt, calling him a strict but fair, a judge who keeps order. Others claimed Jamal must have done something to deserve it. The town split, old wounds of race and power reopening. Then came the twist, a whistleblower from the courthouse. She, a clerk who'd worked under Holt for a decade, contacted David anonymously. "I've seen him do worse," she whispered over a burner phone. "He targets black kids, poor kids. There's a pattern." She leaked documents, case files showing Holt's harsher sentences for black defendants, comments he'd made off, record about cleaning up the streets. One file mentioned a 15-year-old sentenced to juvenile detention for disrespectful behavior. During a hearing, the clerk's voice shook. "I stayed quiet too long. I'm done." David and Elaine built a case, filing a formal complaint with the state's Judicial Oversight Board. They also prepped a civil rights lawsuit, naming Holt and the county. Jamal, reluctant at first, agreed to be the face of it. "I don't want this to happen to anyone else," he told his mom, who hugged him tight, tears in her eyes. "You're stronger than I ever was," she said. The pressure mounted. Protests formed outside the courthouse with signs reading "No justice, no peace, and Holt must go." Holt doubled down in a press conference, claiming he was maintaining courtroom decorum and that the backlash was a witch hunt by activists. But the video kept spreading, and public opinion turned. Even some of Holt's allies distanced themselves, sensing the tide shifting. Then, another bombshell, a second video surfaced. A former defendant, now 20, released footage from 2 years prior showing Holt berating him, a black teen, for looking defiant. The judge had threatened to lock him up for eye contact. The parallels to Jamal's case were undeniable, and the #Holt pattern trended. The Judicial Board announced an investigation, and Holt was temporarily suspended. Jamal, meanwhile, was struggling. The attention was overwhelming. Reporters at his school, trolls online calling him a thug. But his community rallied. Ms. Carter started a fundraiser for his college dreams, and Elaine mentored him, teaching him how to navigate the spotlight. "You're not just a kid anymore," she told him. "You're a voice." He wasn't ready for what came next. A week later, at a packed town hall, the Judicial Board announced its findings. Holt was removed from the bench, effective immediately. The crowd cheered, but the real shock came when the board revealed Holt's private emails, leaked by the whistleblower. In them, he bragged about teaching those kids a lesson and used slurs to describe black defendants. The room gasped, and Jamal felt a weight lift. It wasn't just about him. It was about exposing a system that let Holt thrive for years. She, the whistleblower, stepped forward publicly, a middle-aged black woman named Carla. "I was scared," she said, her voice steady, "but seeing Jamal on his knees broke something in me. I couldn't stay silent." Her courage turned the tide, inspiring others to share their stories of Holt's abuse. The lawsuit grew, now representing dozens of victims. Jamal spoke last, his voice clear. "I was humiliated, but I'm not broken. This isn't just my fight. It's for my brother, my mom, everyone who's been pushed down." The crowd roared, and for the first time, Jamal smiled, feeling the power of his own voice. They won more than Holt's removal. The county agreed to reform its court practices, mandating bias training and community oversight. Jamal's fundraiser hit $50,000, enough for trade school. He wasn't a victim anymore. He was a catalyst. What would you do if you were Jamal, forced to your knees for nothing? Comment below and share this story to keep the fight for justice alive. Subscribe for more stories of redemption and power reversals, because no one should be silenced.